I opened a chain of luxury hotels after my ex-husband and his family called me worthless. Now they're shocked I permanently banned them from every property I own worldwide. Welcome back, family. If you haven't already, subscribe and say hi in the comments. We'd love to know where you're watching from. With that, let's continue today's story. The words hit me like physical blows. You're nothing without this family, Amelia. Nothing. My mother-in-law, Patricia, stood in my own living room, her finger jabbing toward my face while my husband Austin remained silent on the couch. This wasn't new. For 5 years I'd endured their contempt, their constant reminders that I came from nothing, that Austin had rescued me from my modest upbringing. But today was different. Today they'd crossed a line I didn't know existed until they trampled over it. Your grandmother's funeral? Patricia's voice dripped with disdain. Austin has a golf tournament that weekend. Real networking opportunities. Not some ghetto send-off. My grandmother, the woman who raised me, who worked 3 jobs to keep me fed, who believed I could be anything, had passed 3 days ago. And my husband's family was calling her funeral a ghetto send-off. I felt something crack inside me. Not my heart, that had been breaking slowly for years. This was different. This was my spine straightening, my jaw setting, my hands steadying. Get out, I whispered. Patricia laughed, that cruel tinkling sound I'd grown to hate. Excuse me. I said, get out of my house. My voice was stronger now, clearer. Austin finally stood, his face twisted with irritation. Baby, Mom's just being practical. Your mother just disrespected the woman who raised me. The day after I buried her. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. A weak, spineless stranger. And you let her. Austin's sister, Vanessa, smirked from the doorway. Girl, please. You should be grateful we even came over. Acting like we owe you something. That's when I knew. I was done. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, hit that subscribe button. The story gets wild. The divorce papers sat on Austin's desk 3 days later. His face went pale, then red, then purple. You can't be serious, he sputtered, his carefully styled hair falling across his forehead. Over one argument? Amelia, you're being irrational. One argument. As if 5 years of systematic degradation was one argument. Let me take you back to how this started. I met Austin at a hotel, ironically enough. I was working as a front desk supervisor, putting myself through community college business courses at night. He was there for a corporate conference, looking polished in his tailored suit, smelling like expensive cologne. He seemed different then. Charming. Kind of. He'd ask about my dreams, my goals. When I told him I wanted to own a hotel someday, he'd smiled and said, I believe you will. 3 months into dating, I met his family. The shift was immediate and brutal. So you work at a hotel? Patricia had said at that first dinner, her eyes scanning me like I was an insect. How quaint. Austin usually dates women with actual careers. Hospitality management is a career, I'd replied, keeping my voice steady. His father, Robert, had chuckled darkly. Glorified maid service, you mean? Austin had squeezed my hand under the table, and I'd mistaken his silence for solidarity. I didn't realize then it was complicity. Now, standing in his office, watching him process that I was actually leaving, I felt nothing but clarity. I want the house, he said suddenly, his voice hardening. My family helped with the down payment. I smiled. Take it. I don't want anything that has your family's fingerprints on it. His eyes narrowed. You'll regret this, Amelia. You'll come crawling back when reality hits. You're nobody without me. I walked out without another word. My grandmother's lawyer called me 2 weeks after the funeral. His voice was warm, professional, tinged with something that sounded like excitement. Miss Thompson, you need to come to my office. There's something about your grandmother's estate you need to know. I almost laughed. My grandmother worked as a housekeeper her entire life. I assumed she'd left me some photographs, maybe her recipe book, perhaps a few $100s in savings. I was wrong. So incredibly wrong. The lawyer, Mr. Henderson, was an elderly black man with kind eyes and a knowing smile. He slid a folder across his desk toward me. Your grandmother, Evelyn Thompson, was a remarkable woman, he began. Did you know she purchased her first property in 1973? I blinked. Property. The apartment building where she worked as a superintendent. The owner was selling, desperate to offload it during the recession. Your grandmother had been saving every penny. She bought it for $30,000. My head spun. I didn't know. She didn't want you to know. She said you needed to make your own way first, build your own character. But she never stopped building her portfolio. He opened the folder. Over 50 years she acquired 17 properties. Apartment buildings, small commercial spaces. She managed them herself, never hired management companies, lived modestly and reinvested everything. The number at the bottom of the page made my vision blur. $4.3 million. She left instructions. Mr. Henderson continued, pulling out a handwritten letter. She wanted you to have this after you'd faced real hardship. She believed hardship builds character. She wrote this letter 5 years ago after meeting Austin. My hands trembled as I unfolded the paper. The letter was written in my grandmother's careful, elegant script, the handwriting of someone who'd taught herself to write beautifully despite never finishing high school. My dearest Amelia, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you've learned what I left you. I know you're probably in shock, maybe even angry I never told you. But baby girl, I had my reasons. When you brought that boy Austin home, I saw something in his eyes. Something cold beneath all that charm. I saw how his family looked at you like you were less than. I wanted to tell you to run, but I knew you had to learn for yourself. You come from survivors, Amelia. Your great-grandmother picked cotton in fields that weren't her own. Your grandfather fought in a war for a country that didn't treat him like a citizen. Me. I cleaned toilets in buildings I would one day own. That's the secret they don't want us to know. We're not limited by where we start. We're only limited by whether we give up. I watched you work 2 jobs while going to school. I saw your fire, your determination. But I also saw you dimming yourself for people who would never appreciate you. I prayed you'd find your strength before you lost yourself completely. This money isn't just money, baby. It's 50 years of black woman magic. It's every no I turned into watch me. It's proof that we build empires in silence while they sleep on us. Don't you dare spend 1 penny of this trying to prove anything to anyone. Build something that matters. Build something that lasts. Build something that would make me proud. And Amelia? When they come crawling back, and they will, remember who you are. Remember where you came from. Remember that you were never nothing. You were everything just waiting to bloom. I love you forever. Grandma Evelyn. I read it 3 times before I could see through my tears. Mr. Henderson handed me tissues and waited patiently. She was right, I whispered. About everything. He smiled. She usually was. So what are you going to do? I wiped my eyes, feeling something ignite in my chest. I'm going to build an empire. Comment below if you've ever had someone underestimate you. This is just the beginning. I spent 3 months researching, planning, and learning everything I could about luxury hospitality. My grandmother had built wealth through residential properties, but I had a different vision. I wanted to create spaces that made people feel valued, seen, special. Everything Austin's family had made me feel the opposite of. My business professor from community college, Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, became my mentor. She was a Nigerian immigrant who'd built and sold 3 successful businesses. Luxury isn't about expensive things, she told me over coffee one morning. It's about attention to detail. It's about making every guest feel like they're the only person who matters. I found my first property in a historic district. A beautiful but neglected 1920s building that had once been a boutique hotel. The owner was an elderly white man who seemed skeptical when I walked into his office. "You're awfully young to be looking at a property like this," he said, his eyes scanning me dismissively. I'd dealt with enough dismissal to last a lifetime. Instead of shrinking, I straightened my shoulders. I'm 28 years old with a clear vision, solid financing, and a degree in hospitality management. Would you like to see my business plan, or should I take my $1.2 million offer elsewhere? His attitude changed immediately. Let's see that business plan. 6 weeks later, I owned the Evelyn, named after my grandmother. The building needed extensive renovation, but its bones were perfect. High ceilings, original crown molding, large windows that let in gorgeous natural light. I hired local contractors prioritizing Black-owned businesses. The head contractor, James Morrison, was a 50-year-old man who'd been trying to break into historic restoration for years. "Why me?" he asked during our first meeting. "There are bigger firms." "Because you care," I said simply. "I read your proposal 3 times. Every other firm talked about profit margins and quick turnarounds. You talked about honoring the building's history while creating something new. That's what I want." He nodded slowly, respect clear in his eyes. "Then let's build something special." The renovation process was brutal. We discovered structural issues, outdated electrical systems, and plumbing that should have been replaced decades ago. My budget hemorrhaged money and I spent sleepless nights recalculating finances. 3 months into the renovation, I was on-site reviewing tile selections when James called me over to a wall his crew had opened. "You need to see this," he said, his voice strange. Behind the deteriorating plaster, we found original hand-painted wallpaper from the 1920s. Art Deco designs in gold and deep blue, surprisingly intact. "This is museum quality," breathed my interior designer, Lucia Wright, who'd come running when James texted her. "Amelia, do you understand how rare this is?" We carefully preserved and restored the wallpaper in the main lobby. It became the hotel's signature feature, a bridge between past and present. But the real discovery came when we pulled up the carpeting in what would become the penthouse suite. "Miss Thompson," one of the workers shouted. "There's something here." Underneath 6 layers of flooring, we found the original terrazzo mosaic, a stunning geometric pattern in cream, gold, and emerald green. But there was something else. Inlaid in tiny tiles near the fireplace were initials. EB 1923. I ran my fingers over the letters, feeling history beneath my fingertips. Later, I researched the building's history and discovered it had been built by Eloise Beaumont, one of the first Black women to own a hotel in the city. She'd lost the property during the Depression. I stood in that room alone and felt the weight of legacy. This wasn't just about proving Austin wrong anymore. This was about honoring women like Eloise, like my grandmother, who'd built despite every obstacle. "We're bringing you home," I whispered to those initials. The day we finished the penthouse, I posted a video on social media explaining the building's history and my vision for the Evelyn. Within 24 hours it had gone viral. If this story is resonating with you, make sure you're subscribed. The drama is about to intensify. The Evelyn opened on a Friday night in late spring. I'd invited local business owners, media contacts, and community leaders. The building glowed like a jewel, exterior lighting highlighting its architectural details, the lobby wallpaper shimmering under crystal chandeliers we'd painstakingly restored. My staff, carefully selected and trained, moved through the space with pride. I'd hired people who understood service, who'd been overlooked by fancier establishments because they didn't have the right pedigree. Just like me. The mayor attended along with 2 city council members. Dr. Okonkwo came with her husband, beaming with pride. James Morrison brought his wife, both of them dressed up and grinning. "You did it," Dr. Okonkwo said, embracing me. "Your grandmother would be so proud." I was greeting guests near the entrance when I heard a familiar voice. Well, look who's playing dress up." I turned slowly. Vanessa stood in the doorway, Austin beside her, both dressed like they were attending a gala instead of a hotel opening. Behind them stood Patricia and Robert. My heart should have raced. My hands should have trembled. But I felt nothing except a cold, crystalline clarity. "This is a private event," I said calmly. "You weren't invited." Patricia laughed, that same cruel sound. "Amelia, sweetie, we saw the news coverage. Very cute little project you have here. Austin thought we should support you, show there's no hard feelings." Austin had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Amelia, it looks nice. Really. I'm impressed." "You're impressed," I repeated flatly. "How generous of you." Vanessa was already scanning the lobby, her expression calculating. "This must have cost a fortune. Where'd you get the money? Did you trap some other poor man?" Security was already moving toward us. I'd briefed them on the possibility of unwanted guests. But I held up my hand, stopping them. "I need you all to leave," I said, my voice carrying across the lobby. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. "Now who's being dramatic?" Patricia said, but her eyes were wary. "You called me nothing," I said clearly. "You mocked my grandmother's funeral. You spent 5 years making me feel small. And now you show up here expecting what? Forgiveness. Access to my success." Austin stepped forward. "Amelia, don't make a scene." "Oh, now I'm making a scene?" I smiled, but it wasn't kind. "Get out. All of you. You're banned from this property and any future properties I own. Permanently." The security team moved in. Austin looked shocked, Patricia outraged, Vanessa furious. As they were escorted out, I heard Patricia's voice echoing back. "You'll regret this. Who do you think you are?" I turned back to my guests, many of whom were now applauding. "I know exactly who I am," I said softly. The viral video of my opening night, specifically the moment I had Austin and his family escorted out, became a cultural moment. Within weeks, I received interview requests from business magazines, podcasts, and even national morning shows. The story resonated. Young black woman builds luxury hotel empire after divorce from wealthy family who degraded her. It hit every note people loved. Triumph over adversity, poetic justice, black excellence. But I didn't do interviews for revenge. I did them because I realized I had a platform to inspire others. "What's your secret?" a podcast host asked me 2 months after opening. "There is no secret," I replied. "Just this. People will try to convince you that you're limited by your circumstances. They're lying. You're only limited by your willingness to bet on yourself." The Evelyn was fully booked for 6 months straight. Revenue exceeded projections by 40%. I reinvested every penny into my second property, a mid-century modern building in a different district that I transformed into the Beaumont, named after Eloise, the original owner of the Evelyn. My team grew. I hired a general manager, Kendra Williams, a 45-year-old black woman who'd worked in luxury hospitality for 20 years but had never been promoted past assistant manager at major chains. "They kept telling me I wasn't polished enough," she told me during her interview, which is code for not white enough. "How do you define polished?" I asked. She smiled slowly. "Competent, professional, and genuine. Making guests feel valued without kissing ass. You're hired." Kendra became my right hand. Together, we developed the Evelyn standard. Luxury without pretension, service without servitude, excellence accessible to everyone who treated our staff with respect. By the end of year 1, I owned 2 hotels. By the end of year 2, I had 4 properties and was negotiating for international locations. The business magazines started calling me the hospitality disruptor. I preferred my grandmother's granddaughter. Then I received a call that changed everything. "Miss Thompson? This is Richard Gibson from Gibson Global Properties. We'd like to discuss a partnership opportunity." Gibson Global was one of the largest luxury hotel groups in the world. Make sure you've hit that like button. The stakes are about to get much higher. Richard Gibson flew in to meet me personally. He was a sharp-eyed man in his 60s, the kind of person who missed nothing. We met at the Evelyn's rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. He arrived early, I noticed, observing my staff, testing the service with subtle requests. "Your team is exceptional," he said when I joined him. "I've stayed at hotels that charge twice your rates with half the attention to detail." "Thank you," I said, settling into my chair. "But you didn't fly across the country to compliment my staff." He laughed. "Direct. I appreciate that. Miss Thompson, Gibson Global wants to partner with you. We'll provide capital for rapid expansion, 10 properties within 3 years. You maintain creative control, we handle the financial infrastructure." It was a dream offer. The kind of opportunity that could transform my small chain into a major player overnight. "What's the catch?" I asked. "No catch. We invest, you build, we both profit. Standard partnership agreement." I studied him carefully. "Mr. Gibson, with respect, there's always a catch. What do you really want?" He leaned back, a smile playing at his lips. Your story. Your brand. You're not just building hotels, you're building a movement. Young people, especially young Black women, see themselves in you. That's invaluable. So you want to commodify my identity. I want to amplify your impact while making us both very wealthy. Is that so wrong? I thought about my grandmother, about building slowly, about maintaining control. But I also thought about how many more people I could employ, how many more stories like Kendra's I could change. I need to think about it, I said. Of course. Take your time. He paused. Though I should mention, we're also in talks with Austin Caldwell's family. Their hotel group is struggling. They've approached us about acquisition. My blood went cold. Austin's family owns hotels? 3 properties, all hemorrhaging money. Poor management, terrible reviews, outdated facilities. They're desperate. He watched my reaction carefully. If we partner with you, we won't need them. But if you decline. It was a chess move, elegant and brutal. Partner with me or partner with the family that had degraded me. I'll have an answer in 48 hours, I said. I spent that night digging into Austin's family business. What I discovered made my stomach turn. The Caldwell Group owned 3 luxury hotels that were anything but. Reviews were scathing, rude staff, dirty rooms, discrimination complaints. Multiple lawsuits for labor violations. One property had been cited for health code violations. But the worst part? I recognized some of the staff in the online reviews. They were people I'd worked with years ago at the hotel where I met Austin. Good, hard-working people who didn't deserve to work in toxic environments. I called Kendra at midnight. I need you to be honest with me, I said. If I expand too fast, if I partner with Gibson Global, do I risk becoming like them? Who's them? She asked. People who care more about profit than people. There was a long silence. Then Kendra said, Amelia, I've worked for people like that my whole career. You're nothing like them. You called me at midnight worrying about maintaining your values. That's the difference. I made my decision. The next morning I called Richard Gibson. I'll accept your partnership on 3 conditions. First, I maintain full creative and operational control. Second, we include a profit-sharing program for all employees. Third, we establish a hospitality training program for people from underserved communities. Those are expensive conditions, he said carefully. Those are my conditions. Take them or leave them. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. Your grandmother raised you right. We have a deal. 2 weeks later, I learned that Gibson Global had declined the Caldwell Group's proposal. Their hotels went into foreclosure within 6 months. I told myself I felt nothing about it. I was lying. I felt everything. But what happened next would test every bit of strength I'd built. This next chapter is intense. Drop a comment if you're still with me. It happened at my 3rd property's grand opening, now 18 months after the Evelyn launched. This one was the Legacy, a converted historic mansion with 20 luxury suites, each named after influential Black women throughout history. The event was bigger than my previous openings. Celebrities, major media, political figures. I wore a custom gown in deep emerald green, my hair in natural curls my grandmother would have loved. I was speaking with the governor when I saw Austin pushing through the crowd. He looked terrible. Weight loss, shadows under his eyes, desperation in his movements. Security moved to intercept him, but I signaled them to wait. Amelia, please. I need to talk to you. His voice cracked. This isn't the time or place, I said calmly. My family is losing everything. The business is gone. My father had a heart attack from the stress. My mother. He swallowed hard. She's been hospitalized for depression. Something twisted in my chest, but I kept my expression neutral. I'm sorry to hear that. But what does it have to do with me? You could help us. You have the resources now. You could talk to Gibson Global, convince them to reconsider. Stop. My voice was steel. You want me to save the family that spent years telling me I was worthless? We were wrong. He was crying now, making a scene. People were staring. God, Amelia, we were so wrong. I was wrong. I should have defended you. I should have chosen you. But please don't let your anger destroy my whole family. I looked at this man I'd once loved, now broken and begging, and I felt something crack open inside me, but not the way he wanted. You think this is anger? I asked softly. You think I banned you from my properties, built my success, made my choices out of revenge? Isn't it? No, Austin. It's self-respect. It's boundaries. It's me finally understanding that I don't owe people who hurt me a damn thing. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. Your family is losing everything because they ran their business the same way they treated people, with cruelty and contempt. That's not my fault. That's consequences. So you're just going to watch us fall? I'm going to do exactly what your mother told me I'd do without you all. Nothing. Because according to her, I'm nothing, remember? I straightened. Security, please escort Mr. Caldwell out. As they led him away, he turned back one last time. I really did love you, you know. No, I said. You loved having someone beneath you. There's a difference. After Austin was escorted out, I finished the event with a smile on my face and ice in my veins. But when I got home to my penthouse apartment at the Evelyn, I collapsed. I didn't cry. I couldn't cry. I just sat on my floor, still in my custom gown, feeling hollowed out. My phone buzzed. Dr. Okonkwo. I saw the video, she said without preamble. Are you okay? I don't know, I admitted. I thought winning would feel better than this. Come to my house. Now. An hour later, I was in her kitchen, drinking tea while she watched me with those wise, knowing eyes. You're grieving, she said finally. For what? Austin, his family. They don't deserve my grief. Not for them. For the version of yourself that believed love meant dimming your light. For the years you lost trying to be small enough to fit into their world. She reached across the table, taking my hand. Amelia, you did everything right. You built something beautiful. You set boundaries. You protected your peace. But healing isn't linear and victory isn't simple. His mother is hospitalized, I whispered. His father had a heart attack. Am I? I couldn't finish the question. Are you responsible for their pain? Dr. Okonkwo finished. Oh baby. Their choices led them here. Their cruelty, their poor business practices, their inability to treat people with basic dignity. You didn't cause that. You just refused to be their victim anymore. But the words didn't ease the weight in my chest. Over the next few months, I threw myself into work. I opened 2 more properties. I launched the training program for underprivileged youth interested in hospitality. I hired 100 more employees. I gave interviews. I smiled for cameras. And said I felt numb. Then one morning, I received a letter forwarded from the Evelyn's main office. The return address made my hands shake. It was from Vanessa. I almost threw the letter away unopened. But something, curiosity, masochism, fate, made me slice the envelope. Dear Amelia, you won't believe this is from me. Hell, I don't believe I'm writing it. But I need you to know something, and I need to say it while I still can. Mom died 3 weeks ago. The depression, the medications, a heart that couldn't take anymore. The doctor said it was a combination of everything. Dad's in a nursing facility. His second heart attack left him unable to care for himself. Austin drinks now, barely functional. I'm living with a friend, working retail, trying to piece together some kind of life. We destroyed ourselves, Amelia. Not you. I spent my whole life watching Mom tear down other women, especially black women. She did it to her own sister, to her colleagues, to every woman who threatened her sense of superiority. I learned it from her. I perfected it. And you were just the latest victim of a sickness that's been in our family for generations. The truth is, Mom hated herself. Dad's family never fully accepted her. She was from a poor white family, married up, spent her whole life trying to prove she belonged in their world. So she made sure there was always someone beneath her. Someone she could look down on. That was her power, her control. And she taught us to need that too. When you started succeeding, when you built the Evelyn, Mom couldn't handle it. It broke something in her. The realization that you were never beneath us. That you were always going to rise no matter what she did. She kept saying, how did that girl end up with more than us? She couldn't process it. It literally killed her. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just telling you this because you should know. We were never better than you. We were just broken people breaking others to feel whole. My therapist says I need to take accountability. So here it is. I'm sorry. For every cruel word, every dismissive look, every moment I made you feel small. I'm sorry Mom never learned to be different. I'm sorry Austin was too weak to choose you. I'm sorry Dad taught us that money meant more than humanity. I'm sorry we stole years from you that you can never get back. You didn't just build hotels, Amelia. You built a life that proved we were wrong about everything. I hope that brings you peace. I hope you find happiness we never could. Vanessa. I read the letter 5 times. Then I walked to the Evelyn's rooftop, the city sprawling beneath me, my empire glittering in the daylight. I'd won. I'd built everything I'd dreamed of. My hotels were thriving. My grandmother's legacy lived on. I'd proven everyone wrong. So why did I feel so empty? I pulled out my phone and called Dr. Okonkwo. She's dead, I said when she answered. Patricia. She died. Oh honey. How do you feel? That's when I finally cried. Not for Patricia. Not for Austin or his family or their losses. I cried for the girl I'd been 5 years ago, who'd believed love meant acceptance at any cost. I cried for my grandmother who died before seeing what I'd built. I cried for the years I'd spent dimming myself, the confidence I'd lost, the dreams I'd deferred. I cried because winning hadn't healed me. Success hadn't filled the holes their cruelty had carved. Money hadn't made me whole. I have everything I wanted, I whispered. So why does it hurt so much? Because you're human, Dr. Okonkwo said gently. Because trauma doesn't disappear when you succeed. Because you can set boundaries, build empires, prove everyone wrong, and still carry scars. I stayed on that rooftop for hours, watching the sun set over the city, over my hotels, over the life I'd built from ashes and rage and grief. I'd won. But the victory tasted like dust. 3 months later, I stood at Patricia's grave, not because I forgave her, but because I needed to say goodbye to the woman who'd shaped so much of my pain. You were wrong about me, I said to the headstone. But you were also broken. And I'm tired of letting broken people define my worth. I walked away from that cemetery carrying the weight of everything. The triumph, the trauma, the complicated truth that sometimes you can have everything and still feel empty. That sometimes the people who hurt you most are destroyed by their own poison. That sometimes there are no winners, just survivors. I built an empire. I honored my grandmother. I proved them all wrong. But I learned the hardest lesson. Revenge, no matter how righteous, can't heal what was broken. Success can't fill the void where love should have been. And sometimes, the cost of victory is learning to live with everything you've lost along the way. That night, I sat in my penthouse, surrounded by luxury, holding my grandmother's letter, and finally understood what she meant. Asterisk, build something that matters. Build something that lasts. Asterisk. She hadn't just meant hotels. She'd meant myself. And that's the work I'm still doing. One day, one boundary, one choice at a time. Not for them. For me. Because at the end of it all, that's what freedom really looks like. Not revenge, not empire, not vindication. Just a black woman standing in her own power, carrying her own scars, building her own peace. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt worthless and fought your way back to yourself, if you've ever learned that winning isn't the same as healing, share this video. Let someone know they're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about the complicated truth of surviving, thriving, and still being human through it all. Drop a comment telling me, what would you do differently? How do you heal after you've already won? Thanks for being here. Take care of yourselves. You're worth more than anyone who made you feel small will ever understand.